The galaxy had always been full of voices carrying across the black sea of space, voices of traders bargaining for rare metals, voices of explorers, porting new worlds, voices of entire civilizations, sharing laughter, fear, and hope, and then without warning the voices stopped. One by one, the signals fell quiet until there was only silence that stretched across light years like a great empty ocean. The scientists at the United Earth Space Agency listened in disbelief first, thinking it was an error in their receivers, then a network failure. But when the silence deepened and spread, they realized the truth. Something had silenced. Not just one world, but many. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the warship, Vanguard staring at the star maps flickering on the holodisplay, each glowing point of light representing an alien system, and each one marked with a red icon showing last known contact. He had seen wars, famine, plagues, even the destruction of entire colonies, but never had he seen the galaxy itself go quiet. The emptiness was worse than war, because war at least had noise and movement. This was still and cold like the void itself. The crew moved in hushed voices as if afraid to break whatever unseen presence had stolen the stars. Kane received his orders in a short, encrypted message: investigate the missing systems, determine cause, and report back to Vanguard. Launched from Earth orbit and slipped past the moon, its engines leaving a silent trail of blue light. The further they traveled from Sol, the darker the space felt, as if even the light was reluctant to follow. After 2 days, the comms officer detected something faint beneath the static 3 deep tones repeating over and over, followed by nothing. The signal came from a system once thriving with alien life forms known for their vast floating cities. Kane ordered a course change, and as they approached they saw the planets still turning in the light of their sun, but the cities were dead. No smoke, no fire, no signs of battle, only emptiness. The scans showed life support systems on the cities still active, yet there were no life signs. The streets lay abandoned, as if the entire population had walked away in the same instant and never returned. Then the sensors found wreckage in the outer orbit, pieces of alien ships floating like broken bones, and among them a blackened fragment of a hull with strange burn patterns. It was destruction, but too precise to clean, as if done by a weapon designed not for chaos but for absolute removal of life. They recovered a data recorder from the wreckage, its casing burned and warped, but its core still intact. When they played it, a voice spoke in an alien tongue, full of static and distortion, and yet the fear in it was unmistakable. The voice said something that the translator struggled to parse until the words finally came clear. They are coming, and they will speak to you last. Kane felt the weight of those words settle over him like cold iron. Who were they, and why were humans to be last? The comms officer reported that the 3-tone signal was still playing in the distance, now stronger, as if guiding them deeper into the silence, and Kane knew they would have no choice but to follow. The Vanguard moved deeper into the dead systems, following the signal that pulsed like a slow heartbeat across the darkness, and every jump through hyperspace seemed colder than the last. The stars here felt dim, as though they too were afraid of what lay ahead when they reached the next system. Kane and his crew found no welcoming fleets, no chatter across open channels, only the cold silence that had now become their constant companion. The planets were still there, spinning in quiet orbits, their surfaces marked by strange patterns, as if something had swept across them like a great invisible wave. Entire continents lay in eerie order, untouched by fire or bombs, yet utterly without life. The scans detected no biological signatures, no movement, no power grids, only the wind and the oceans carrying on as if nothing had happened. In orbit, fragments of satellites and space stations floated without direction, some still flashing with the dying glow of emergency lights. The engineers worked to retrieve another data recorder from a derelict cruiser. It was from a species known for their powerful fleets, yet the ship's hull was not torn or blasted apart. It had been carved with the precision of a scalpel, each deck sliced open, as if by some energy beam that could pass through solid metal without heat damage. The recovered logs showed the crew's panic in the final minutes, voices screaming in overlapping languages until one voice shouted over them, Then the log went black, the image cut off before whatever came for them could be seen. Kane's second-in-command, Lieutenant Arya. Voss suggested it might be an ancient weapon, one left behind by some long-dead race, but Kane shook his head. If this was a weapon, it was still very much alive. The comms officer interrupted their discussion, saying the three-tone signal was now accompanied by faint whispers in dozens of alien dialects, some of which no human had ever heard before. The whispers seemed to be layered over one another, forming no clear words, yet carrying the same emotion, fear. The science team analyzed the signal's trajectory and found it
was moving
through the systems ahead of them, always staying just out of reach, like a predator leading its prey. Kane ordered the vanguard to push further, ignoring the creeping dread that had settled into the crew's minds as they entered the third system. They encountered their first movement in weeks, a shadow passing across the edge of their sensors. At first it seemed too large to be a ship, perhaps an asteroid drifting through space, but the readings showed it was moving with purpose, adjusting its course in response to theirs. The shadow was so vast that the scanners could not map its full outline, and when the crew magnified the image, they saw smooth black surfaces glinting with faint points of light, as though the thing was covered in tiny stars. Arya whispered that it looked like a piece of the night sky itself had broken loose and was now hunting them. Kane felt the weight of command press harder than ever. He knew they were being led somewhere, but he could not yet see the trap ahead, and turning back was no longer an option. Earth needed answers, and he was the only one who could bring them. The whispers grew louder now, carrying fragments of words in human English mixed with the alien languages. The voice repeated a phrase over and over: "You are the last. You are the last." The bridge fell, silent as the crew exchanged uneasy glances. Kane ordered all weapons on standby and engines ready for evasive maneuvers. The shadow was closing the distance, its scale becoming clearer as it blotted out entire constellations behind it. And then, for the first time since they had left Sol, the silence broke. A deep voice resonated across all channels, vibrating through the Vanguard's hull and into the bones of every person aboard. The voice spoke only one chilling sentence: "The galaxy is cleansed. You are the last." The words hung in the air like the echo of a storm long after the thunder had rolled, and every crew member on the Vanguard felt the meaning in their chest more than in their ears. The galaxy is cleansed. You are the last. The voice carried no anger, no mercy, only a cold certainty, as if it were stating a fact older than the stars. Kane stood rigid, his eyes fixed on the sensor readouts that now showed the shadow in full detail. The object was a warship, if the word could even be used for something so massive. It stretched for kilometers upon kilometers, its surface smooth and black with patterns of glowing crimson lines that pulsed like veins carrying some strange energy. Its weapons were unlike anything in human design, huge spines along its hull that looked more like the claws of a beast than machinery. The science officer reported that its power signature was beyond anything they could measure. It was as if the ship itself was a fragment of a star, given shape. Kane opened a channel, sending every known greeting and identification code humanity had ever used with alien species, but there was no reply. The only answer was the deep three-tone signal, now so loud it seemed to vibrate in their skulls. Then the great ship moved, slow, deliberate turn until its bow faced them directly, and the space between the two ships seemed to warp as energy built around the alien vessel. The Vanguard's AI Athena calculated the charge rate and warned that whatever weapon they were about to fire would destroy them in less than a second if it hit. Kane ordered evasive maneuvers, but the alien vessel tracked their every move, its targeting flawless, as though it had already fought them 1,000 times in some forgotten war. Kane's fingers tightened on the command console, but then Athena's voice cut through the tension, suggesting an old human tactic: speak before you strike. Kane understood and ordered a full power transmission to all frequencies. The Vanguard began to speak, broadcasting Earth's history, its struggles, its survival against extinction again and again. The message repeated a simple truth: humanity will not go quietly. The alien ship did not fire. Instead, it seemed to pause, the glow along its hull dimming slightly, as if listening for the first time. Kane took the risk to speak directly into the channel, declaring that Earth would fight for its right to exist. that humanity was not like the others, they had silenced the alien voice. Returned quieter but heavier than before. You are not like the others, prove it before. Kane could respond. The sensors lit up with dozens of contacts emerging from hyperspace all around them, more ships of the same
At dark.
design forming a wall of shadow in the void. They did not move to attack, yet their presence alone made the air on the bridge feel heavier. Kane realized they had not been intercepted. They had been surrounded, the alien leader, or whatever mind-controlled.
Else.
These vessels spoke. Again, your kind is the last voice in this galaxy. We will test it. Kane demanded to know the nature of this test, but there was no answer, only a set of coordinates. Transmitted directly into their navigation systems, Athena confirmed the location. Was deep within uncharted space, beyond the reach of any known civilization. Kane knew it was a trap, but also knew that refusing might mean immediate destruction. He ordered the course, set the alien ships parted just enough to let them through, their crimson lines flickering like eyes watching a smaller predator walk into the den of something far older and far more dangerous. Vanguard moved into the uncharted blackness beyond known space, following the coordinates given by the alien fleet, and every hour the journey seemed to stretch the crew tighter. The stars here were not like the ones they knew, some shone in strange colors. Others flickered unnaturally as if they were being watched through a veil. Kane remained at the bridge, his eyes locked on the growing shape ahead, a system hidden in darkness. Its sun, a deep red giant casting long shadows across a cluster of jagged planets. The AI Athena reported no signs of life but detected structures in orbit around the innermost world, enormous black rings spinning slowly like the remnants of some ancient construction project. As the Vanguard drew closer, Kane saw that the rings were not abandoned. They were weapons, each one the size of a moon, lined with countless towers that seemed to stare outward like the barrels of 1,000,000 guns. Athena warned that the rings were powering up energy readings spiking, but the fire was not aimed at them. Instead, the weapons were discharging toward something in the distance beyond. The system, a shape so vast it made the alien dreadnought they had encountered look small. It moved with terrifying slowness, its surface alive with shifting plates and flashes of light as if an entire city was crawling across it. Kane realized it was not a ship in the traditional sense, but something older, something alive, and yet machine. The alien voice returned. This is the darkness we fight. This is the silence. Kane understood then the meaning of their words. The alien fleet had not been killing for conquest. They had been erasing all civilizations that could not withstand what was coming. A cleansing not for power, but for survival. And now, humanity had been brought here to prove it could stand when the silence reached them. The alien ships formed a massive defensive wall between the rings and the approaching entity. But the great machine creature did not slow it, pushed forward, ignoring the blasts that struck its armor, each impact sending shockwaves of energy that made the Vanguard's shields flare even from a distance. Kane ordered battle stations, but Athena warned that their weapons would barely scratch the surface unless they found a weak point. Arya reported a cluster of openings along the underside of the creature, possibly vents or sensory nodes, but getting close enough to target them would mean flying straight through the densest part of the enemy fire. Kane made the choice. The Vanguard would cut through and strike at the heart of the thing. As the crew prepared, he opened a channel to the alien fleet, telling them humanity would fight alongside them. The alien voice gave no reply, but several of their ships shifted position, opening a narrow corridor through the chaos for the Vanguard to pass. The warship dove into the gap, its thrusters roaring as enemy blasts streaked past the hull, some grazing close enough to make the metal scream. The crew held their stations as Kane guided them into the shadow of the great machine. Its surface looming like a continent overhead, the vent structures glowed faintly with a pulsing blue light. Athena calculated that one well-placed strike could destabilize the entire section. Kane ordered all forward weapons to full charge the energy built along the ship's lances until the hull trembled with the force of it, and then with a single command the Vanguard fired. The beams tore into the vents, and for the first time the massive creature reacted. A deep vibration shuddered through space, itself as if the stars had joined in its cry. The alien fleet seized the moment, focusing all fire on the wounded section, but the thing was not done fighting. Panels along its side opened, and a swarm of smaller constructs poured out, each one armed. And fast Kane knew the real test was only beginning. The swarm descended like a living storm, each construct moving with insect-like precision, their black surfaces glinting with sharp lines of blue. Energy as they darted through the chaos around the vanguard, the alien fleet broke formation to meet them, but the constructs moved too fast, weaving through defensive fire and striking with beams that cut ships in half in a heartbeat. Kane ordered the vanguard to keep moving toward the wounded section of the great machine, knowing that stopping to fight the swarm head-on would mean death. Athena deployed graviton mines behind them, spheres of unstable energy that detonated, with silent bursts pulling the smaller constructs into crushing implosions. The blasts bought them seconds, but seconds were all they needed to push deeper into the shadow of the massive enemy. The alien dreadnought that had first confronted them now fought alongside them, its crimson lines blazing bright as it unleashed a barrage from its spines, shredding dozens of attackers in one sweep. But the swarm kept coming, relentless and tireless, as if their numbers were endless. Arya shouted from the tactical console that shield integrity was dropping fast, and the next concentrated strike would tear through there. Kane refused to break focus, his eyes fixed on the vent structures, head now flickering erratically from the damage they had already inflicted. Athena calculated that if they could fire directly into the core chamber, the resulting chain reaction could destabilize the entire creature, but to hit the core, they would need to get closer, far closer than was safe. The alien fleet seemed to sense their plan. Several ships moved to shield the vanguard from the swarm, taking heavy losses in the process. One massive vessel rammed straight into a cluster of constructs, sacrificing itself to clear a path. Kane took the opening, pushing the vanguard forward as the swarm closed in from all sides. Enemy beams slicing across their shields, the bridge shook violently as explosions tore through the lower decks. Damage reports flooded in, fire and engineering loss of portside batteries, hull breach in section 12. Still Kane pressed on, his voice steady, as he ordered weapons to full power. The core chamber was now visible through the jagged wound in the machine's armor. A vast sphere of swirling blue and white energy held in place by skeletal structures that seemed to hum with a strange rhythm. Athena warned that the energy inside was unstable, and a direct hit could trigger a reaction powerful enough to destroy the vanguard along with their target. Kane weighed the risk and made his choice, telling the crew that if humanity was to prove itself, it would be here and now. The vanguards lances charged to maximum capacity, the air on the bridge thrumming with the rising power outside. The swarm had realized their intent and surged in with renewed fury, dozens of constructs slamming into the hull, their impacts sending shockwaves through the ship's systems. Flickered, alarms blared, but the charging sequence continued as the core glowed brighter, as if aware of the threat to its existence. Kane gave the command to fire. The twin beams of the vanguard struck the core dead center. The sphere of energy flared violently, its hum turning into a deep, resonant roar that echoed through the void the alien fleet seized. The moment pouring all fire into the weakened spot, the great machine shuddered, pieces of its armor breaking away. In massive chunks, the swarm faltered, their movements disjointed, as if their link to the core was breaking. Kane ordered the vanguard to pull back, but before they could retreat, a final wave of constructs hurled themselves at the ship in a desperate attempt to protect their dying master. The impact was brutal. The lights on the bridge went out, the ship spun in the darkness as the core erupted behind them, filling space with blinding light. When the light faded, the darkness returned, but it was not the same darkness that had followed them since leaving Earth. This was quieter, softer, as if the stars themselves were catching their breath. The vanguard drifted in the shadow of the wreckage, its hull scorched and broken hull sections venting into space. The crew moved slowly through the dim red emergency lights, their faces pale but alive. Athena reported that the core of the great machine was gone, its remains scattered like shattered moons across the system. The swarm had vanished, either destroyed or rendered lifeless. Without their master, the alien fleet moved among the wreckage, silent at first, their massive forms gliding like shadows through the debris. Then the voice returned, but it was different now, no longer the cold certainty of judgment. It carried a weight of acknowledgement. You have stood when others fell, you have struck when others fled, humanity has spoken. Kane stood at the center of the bridge, listening to the words, knowing they were more than praise. They were an acceptance into something far greater. The alien voice continued. The galaxy is not cleansed. The darkness will come again, and you will be called when it does. A pulse of light passed from the alien dreadnought to the Vanguard data streams, filling their systems with star maps, coordinates, and files in languages both human and alien. Athena translated enough to reveal what it was: a network of hidden systems, safe havens, strongholds, and battle plans, left behind by civilizations that had fought this same enemy for millennia. Kane understood that humanity had not just survived a test, they had been drafted into a war far older than their species. The alien fleet began to turn away, one by one, their crimson lines dimming as they slipped into hyperspace until only the dreadnought remained, its massive hull blotting out the stars. The voice spoke one final time: when the day comes, when the silence returns, you will speak again. And then it was gone, vanishing into the void, leaving the Vanguard alone with the ruins of a battle that would be whispered about in human history for generations. Kane ordered a course back to Sol, the ship limping forward through the endless night, the crew silent, each lost in their own thoughts. As the stars stretched ahead, the AI's calm voice broke the quiet, reporting that Earth had received their message. The silence across the galaxy had been broken by their signal, and now dozens of distant systems had responded, faint voices answering. Across the void, Kane felt a flicker of something deep within him, not triumph, not relief, but resolve. The war was not over. It had only just begun. As the Vanguard passed beyond the edge of the red giant's light, he looked once more at the dark horizon and spoke quietly, as if to the stars themselves. The day worlds fell silent, humanity spoke back, and the galaxy listened.